In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in black and white emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of change brought forth by the whispers of hope and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape our world.
Good evening, family. Welcome to America in Black and White, where we amplify voices that carry legacy, purpose, and power. I'm your host, Charles King, and tonight's episode is a celebration of storytelling. Not just the stories we tell, but the voices that bring them to life. Our guest is a man whose voice has traveled from newsroom to the sound booth, from the sidelines of the Super Bowl to the soul of award winning documentaries. Greg Campbell's journey began over 25 years ago in Flint, Michigan, as a television reporter. From there, he made his way to Tampa, Florida, covering some of the biggest moments in sports. But it was behind the mic, in the world of voiceover, where Greg found his true calling. He is the voice behind the Emmy Award winning documentary show Shaw Rising, a 2022 Telly Award winner for the 1954 Project, and the sound of national campaigns for Ford and Kumho tires. His deep, distinctive voice has narrated audiobooks, commercials, and stories that matter. Tonight, we'll explore Greg's life story, his work in coaching and mentorship, and why the legacies of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X continue to shape his voice, his vision, and his values. This is more than a conversation, it's a masterclass in the purpose, presence, and the power. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Greg Campbell.
Hi, how are you, Charles?
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. So,
Welcome to the show.
well, I appreciate you bringing me on. Been looking forward to it ever since we talked off camera. So, I'm very excited.
Yes, sir. Are there any words you'd like to mention or anything you'd like to say before we get into the show?
No, I think we're good. So, I'm ready to roll.
Okay. Let's start with your life story, your career journey, because I think foundationally, I think this is how people need to understand, how we get to this point in which you've got so much growth going on. Um, Take us back to Flint. What
Mhm.
sparked your interest in media and storytelling?
It really started with actually when I first thought about a couple of things that's happened to me in my life that I felt like it was kind of a weird occasion, but I had been interviewed as a child about three times by the news media. One was during the presidential election that came to my high school. One of the presidents at the time was came to my high school, and then I was interviewed in two other occasions dealing with sports. And so, but when I really thought about it more was when I got to college at Eastern Michigan, and I had a classmate said he was taking some classes dealing with drama and that sort of thing. So I decided to take some of those classes, and it kind of evolved into television. So I took a drama class, and I liked it, and so I pursued broadcasting, and I started as intern at the radio station at Eastern Michigan University, and then I went on to right after college. I interned with a local station in Flint, and started out as a cameraman, moved my way up to sports, and that's what took me there with into broadcasting. So I loved it.
So, being so young and having that opportunity to be interviewed on the news while you were in school, um, have you always had this thing in your mind about being a creative individual, or was that something that you kind of like slid into being?
I knew that that helped. I mean, and one of the things when I got into broadcasting, the creative part came really from writing. I really liked that aspect of it, being able to tell the story, even if it was like in television, they have these things called packages. That's what they call a story, is a package, and it may be a minute 30 because there's such little time you have for a half hour news broadcast, and sports has really have been cut down over the years. But I really was able to challenge myself to write a good story in like a minute and 15 seconds or a minute and 30 seconds and write to the video. And I really enjoyed that aspect. It was a challenge every time you would do a story. Because I remember my dad was alive at the time when I started working in television. And, he just asked me, how are you able to write something different for every story? And so it's really, really that first 20 words that you can put on paper to describe what the audience is going to see was really challenging to me. So that was the creative part. And then being a producer, because when I got to Tampa, I was a 2-day producer for a half-hour call-in show with a former Buccaneer, Tampa Bay Buccaneer, may he rest in peace, David Logan. And I was his producer for 2 days, and I reported for 3 days a week. And that part, the creative part of getting a guest, your topic, what you're going to talk about. I remember us brainstorming on different things. And it was great. I mean, I always had that creative part of me, or really writing brought it out of me.
So, what was your first on-air experience like as a reporter?
It was good. I when I officially as a reporter, I did a lot of in Flint. There's a whole lot of high school sports that's great. I mean, there's a lot of sports in the Midwest. You're doing high school basketball. You're doing a lot of that. Every now and then we would get down to see. We were only an hour away from Detroit, so we would get down to some of the Pistons or the Lions from time to time. But they had their own networks there. But the first thing that I ever did was actually it was the NBA draft came to the Palace of Auburn Hills, and at that time, Chris Webber was the first overall pick, and that was like my first story that I did, and it was exciting, I mean, because there were so many different medias there from all over the country, and our sports director wanted me to do something. Well, he had another reporter as well, but he wanted me to do something, and got my feet wet, and I enjoyed it. I loved it.
Wow. Did you actually have the opportunity to interview Chris at that draft?
Yep, I was able to, at that time, actually it was all he came to a podium, and so all the media are in there. So, your mic is there and you just throw out questions to him. And so that was the way it was done at that time. So but it was great. I mean, it was a lot of fun, and really enjoyed it, and enjoyed covering, all the things that were in my area at the time. I really loved it.
So, how did your time covering sports in Tampa shape your voice and presence?
Um, well, just to give you a little background and getting to Tampa, one of the things that people who work in the business, they dream to go into a bigger market, and Flint at the time was like market 65, and so I always wanted to go to a top 20 market, and Tampa at the time was like 10 or 9, something like that, as I remember. And I got the job through kind of like a referral. And, there's that saying, it's not what you know, but who you know. And I met one of the reporters one of the reporters at my station was dating a lady that lived in Tampa, and he was doing a series piece on apartment discrimination. And she was Caucasian, and we posed as an interracial couple. And um, unfortunately, we got discriminated against the second place we went to. But that experience opened up everything for really the rest of my life, because I this news station started in Tampa called Bay News 9, and they needed a sports anchor. And I was interviewed for the first run, and I didn't get the job. And then they had this new position for reporter / producer. And she called me then and said, the general manager wanted to meet me. So actually, I'm sorry, I flew down in that summer, didn't get the job. And then when that new position started, it was right around the time of the Super Bowl in February. And I took the job, and that moved me here. I met my wife here. The rest has been history. So it was kind of a blessing.
Oh, wow. So what made you transition from television to voiceover work?
That was more of people pushing me in that direction. I never thought about doing voiceovers. People were, approaching me and saying, "Greg, you got such a nice voice." I had gotten out of the business, out of television, and they were saying, "Have you ever thought about doing audiobooks?" And I was like, "No, never really ever gave it any serious thought." And it just kept occurring, kept happening, and I was just like, I wanted to get out of broadcasting. I wanted to be. It could be a very unstable business, television, because you move around a lot. And I got married in 2002. I met my wife in '99, and I got out of the business in 2005. And I didn't think I would ever get back into broadcasting. And so people started approaching me. I said, "Well, let me look into it." And I took voice lessons from a guy that was an hour away from me, from here in Tampa. He lives in Sarasota. And the rest is history. I loved it. I mean, I really loved it. You're kind of your own boss. And it's, again, that creative aspect comes back. And this is something that, in a different way, I'm able to be creative, and I love it.
Tell us about some of the stresses and strains that it take to be in television reporting, or just on television in general.
It's stresses is, it's the nature of the beast. Starting out in that business, I was young, I was single, and I didn't I knew I wanted to move around a lot. I knew I wanted to move. And, but the business itself is, what they say in the business is a cutthroat business. It really is. Yeah, I'm just going to be honest with you. It really is, because your work contract to contract. And one of the things that makes it cutthroat is, like, say, for example, you may be hired by a certain news director, right? That news director likes you. Let's say that news director moves on, and the general manager hires another person. And, you may not be that fit for that person. It's almost like sports teams. I mean, it really is. It's like, that person want to bring in their own people, their own system, or they may have been an assistant news director in another location. And if your contract is coming up and they have a buddy or somebody they know that did sports, or know that as a reporter, they may bring them on and not re-sign you and that sort of thing. So it's a cutthroat business for sure.
Hmm. When did you realize voiceover was your true calling?
I I've not always, but I've had this voice since I was in the eighth grade. And it wasn't nice at the time in the eighth grade to come with this deep voice. All the girls were saying, what's wrong with Greg? Puberty hit me, and had this deep voice. I went from this high voice to this deep voice, and it's just a ironic thing that life can kind of throw at you, because I remember watching as a kid NFL films and listening to John Facenda's voice. He had this great voice of God. And my mother, she didn't know anything about football, didn't care about football. But when she would be in the kitchen and hear that man's voice, she would say, "Oh my goodness, who is that?" And it's just ironic that all these years later, this is what I end up doing, and I'll never forget that. So I mean, I I really I started doing some of this when I worked in radio about 20 years ago, right when I was getting out of the business, and I would do commercials for. Um, I was the news and uh, news reporter guy for a talk show in the morning. It was called the Olivia Fox Morning Show, and I was her news and um, traffic guy. That's what I'm trying to think. I did the traffic reports and I did the news, and I started. I would read commercials for her show and then another show in the evening. So that was kind of my first glimpse of doing voiceovers. And then, but again, when I got out of the business, I didn't think more about, hey, this is something I can transition to at that time. More people approached me about doing audiobooks, and I was like, sure, let me try it. And I didn't realize I would like it this much.
Mhm. What challenges did you face in making that career pivot?
Um, it's like I said, it's like being your own boss. So you have to go out and find your own work, approach people. So that's the biggest challenge. I have agents and things like that, and you have to do good work to get an agent to want to put you on their roster and represent you. But that's one of the things you have to think of it as a business. So you have to go out, meet a lot of people, um, offer what you offer to them, and kind of go from there. So I mean, there is, to get into the business, there are something called pay to play sites, and these are sites where you pay a fee for the whole year, and they send you auditions, and you audition. And I've gotten a lot of great work from that, but a lot of work that I've got is just from contacting different advertising agencies and production companies.
How has your background in journalism influenced your narration style?
It's helped. It's helped because of, if somebody's looking to get into voiceovers, um, I recommend that they do something in front of the mic, or something to get them to talk, do public speaking or something like that. And the reason why I say that is I had years of, doing television or doing radio. So I was not a stranger when I, approached the mic. A lot of people have never done that before. So it's good that they join like Toastmasters, or do some sort of improv class, something to kind of get their feet wet, to explore the other side of them, because this is acting. Whereas television, when I say to my students a lot of times is, when you read a sentence for television, you want to end that sentence with a down inflection. But in voiceover, it could be numerous ways you read that sentence, because you're acting out in so many ways, if it's a commercial or audiobook. So it's totally different. But that prepared me, because I was already used to talking.
Wow. What's one lesson from your early career that still guides you today?
Oh my goodness. I mean, you know, I learned a lot from my experience in television. I really did. I mean, there was so much. I really learned to transition well in other parts of my life. I mean that. I mean, that was just dealing with TV, um, dealing with some of the tragic things that happen sometimes in television, um, and both as a camera person and as a reporter, excuse me, really opened up my eyes to many things in my life. Um, you know, you just there's things that you dealt with in television that I don't know, it prepares you, but you see it all. I mean, you see the good and the bad, and you feel fortunate that what you have in your life at the time. You feel fortunate as a person. I mean, because you are dealing with life experiences every day, different people every day. So it's just so for me, it was just being able to make that transition into every stage of my life, every age that I become. TV has helped, or that career helped me.
Well, so with that being said, and you look back and reflect on your career, especially that part in television, would you go back to television?
Not at this age, no. Not at this. I it, and if I, TV was really brung in some positive things in my life. Don't get me wrong. I have some of my best friends. I still keep in touch with about 7 people from my first station that I work with, and I'm still very good friends with them. And I met my wife through television. Um, and so, but in terms of a career choice, if I had to do it over again, uh, you know, it's I would say probably I would try something different. And the reason why is I when I was in high school, I took a lot of architectural classes, and we had in Flint, Michigan, there was something called the Genesee County Skill Center, and um, I took it my junior year and senior year, and I always wonder, well, what if I would have pursued that? And one of the things that I liked drawing at the time as a kid too. So that was another creative part. So I think about that a lot of times. But really, television has shaped me in so many ways. I had to look at that experience and say, the positive part of it was great. And so I don't have many regrets. I really don't.
So, how do you define legacy in your work?
Legacy in my work is I think it may be with my audiobooks, because I really it shows every aspect of my capability of what I can do. Um, and it's always going to be there. That's I mean, people can listen to my audiobooks for a long time. And I think it kind of tops off my career in this broadcasting of 30 some odd years of being able to do something that's different, something that I enjoy. If I had it to do over again, I would have done this first before doing television. So, I mean, I love it that much. So I think that's what I would have replaced this with, rather than, doing TV.
Mm. So, what advice would you give to someone looking to reinvent themselves professionally?
Don't be afraid. That's one of the things that I think too much we get bogged down in the fear. It's this fear of doing something different. And you just can't be fearful. I mean, you have to just jump in and do it, especially if you're a person who's single and looking to, I always had my dream was to Tampa worked out for me because my goal was, at that time when I was thinking about it, I wanted to go into a top 20 market, and I wanted to move someplace warm. I was in Michigan for all my life, and I was just like, oh, this is where I want to live. And so, but I wasn't afraid to um, try something different. And I wasn't the most outgoing person. There's some people who are, way more outgoing than me. And, but I was excited about another opportunity in another city, another state, meeting new people, and starting a new life somewhere. So you just can't be afraid. You got to shrug off whatever fear you have and look at the positives of it. That's what I would tell people.
Well, when you think about television and you think, as they say, lights, camera, action,
Hmm.
that in itself means, for a lot of people have got these big personalities.
Hmm.
At least most of those people that I've seen, that this is kind of like how they are.
Yep.
So when you think about somebody that, is kind of like right there in the middle and
Hmm.
they really don't know, how would they actually be able to determine if it's for them or not if they really gave it that opportunity?
I would suggest if they're looking to go into television, to do an internship, because what you could do is do an internship at a big station. Because when at that time I was in Michigan, but I did my internship at our local radio station on campus. But there were some people who did their internship at in Detroit. My school, Eastern Michigan, was like 40 minutes away from Detroit, half hour, 40 minutes away, and they did Detroit again was market number 9, and that would tell you, whether or not this is for you. If you do an internship at a big station to see how it really was, and the same thing when I got to Tampa, we had interns, and there were some interns that found out, this isn't for me. The industry wasn't for me. So that's a great way to find out if this is for you, because you're going to see, if you want to get to that level, you're going to see just how the business is run. And so that's what I would recommend.
So let's switch over to your work here in audiobooks and your voiceover craft, because this is the big meat and potatoes. This is the thing that you have come to do that people are knowing you from. Um,
Hmm.
what's your process for preparing to narrate an audiobook?
Well, the process is you got to read the book. You got to read the book first, and and you talk with the author, um, and get the gist of what he's looking for, he or she. Most of the time they will approach you, or it might be a company that approaches you and wants you to audition for the book. But you have to read the book first, all the way through, and if there's characters in the book, you have to, you know, um, come up with some sort of personalities for these characters. And that's one of the things that you want to speak with the author about, is that, there's been books that I've turned down because the author has 20 different people in a story. And I'm just like, you know, I know I have different personalities from time to time, but not 20. So I can do what I can handle, and but I'm upfront in just reviewing the book, reading the book, and then start your process. So that's one of the main things, because you have to underline words. You have to there's software now that makes it so much more easier for audiobook narrators. But like, for example, there's you know um, the software where you can put in all the script of the chapter, and you can load up what you read for that chapter, and it'll go through your mistakes and everything. So things are a lot better in terms of being able to make the process easier. But audiobooks is it's work, but I love it. I love it. I love doing the audiobooks, and I've done books that are almost 12 hours long, and so yeah.
So when you're doing these, when you're doing your audiobook, and let's just go back to the example that you used of, a book that's got 20 different characters. Are you actually, when you're reading the book, are you actually transitioning into all those characters as you're reading the book?
Oh yeah, I mean that's the acting
Oh, wow.
part of it. Yeah, because I mean, there's different accents they look for, and is it an older person? You have to sound older, or a younger person. It could be a female. I have this deep voice, so I tell them up front, I can't, you know, sound too much like a female, but I can, you can tell the difference. I can raise my voice a little bit, but as long as you are a good storyteller, you're able to get away with that and be able to, um, just be able to speak to your audience and let them know what's happening. What if you have that storyteller um, rhythm to your voice, you can be successful.
Wow. So how do you bring emotion and nuance to someone else's words?
Oh, I mean that's that's really I want them to sound their I want them when they read
You
something,
froze
I
for a
want them
second.
read the way that they would tell it just like they're talking to an individual. If there's an area where it's anger, I explain to them, you have to visualize, you know, a situation where you're talking to your friend, or you're talking to your spouse, or you're talking to your child. So you're able to make that transition. Over the years, for me, it's been, I mean, I've just been that kind of person where I visualize everything. But I remember in drama class, taking a drama class, and the teacher wanting us to express how different colors should sound with your voice. So like the color yellow and the color red and things like that. So it kind of started from there. And um, so for me, like there's been books that I've read that um, I mean, there was some challenges in those books, but I looked at it as, my own personal experience, how I would say this, and went from there. That's why it's important to read the book first, because if it's drama or something like that you want to, read, then you're already won because you're already looking forward to that. But um, the characters, you have to do all that kind of gymnastics in terms of, this is a 20-year-old male, this is a 48-year-old male, all those kind of things you have to put in your mind of how you want them to sound, and go from there.
Wow. So you really this is I think this is code switching to like the 18th degree,
Yeah.
because it sounds like, in just having to do all of that, and you having to do all of that, with that many different characters. I mean, so what is it like after you've done the book? I mean, is it still ingrained in your mind, or how do you wash that out?
Oh, I mean, that's, you are looking forward to the next, piece of work. I mean, really, that's kind of, for me, the high I get out of voiceover is getting an email that I've been hired, and then seeing or hearing the finished product. I love that. I love that because most of the time, outside of audiobooks, like when I do a commercial, I do a lot of corporate videos. I don't see the B-roll or the pictures the video that they're putting up. I don't see the interviews that they're doing. So when they come to me, they they kind of have their vision. They like my voice, but they kind of coach me to how I should sound in certain sentences. And so I read that way. They say, Greg, that's great. And then, a couple of weeks later, I'm able to see the finished product, and I see it and I loved it. And so that is 9 times out of 10. There's I can't even think of too many spots where sometimes they'll send you a spot and the producer may have read it themselves. And so you see it there, you see the video and all that and what your voice is going to replace. But 9 times out of 10, you don't see that video. You don't know what's going on until it's finished.
So, what's been your most meaningful audiobook project so far?
I done one book that stands out is Ain't Gonna Let Nobody Turn Me Round. And that was a
Hmm.
book written by Dr. Anthony Harris. And I did this book probably 6 years ago, around that time period. And it was dealing with the struggle of the civil rights movement. And he was one of the unsung heroes. And there's a lot of unsung heroes in the civil rights movement, we don't hear about. And he was one of those people. And he really sacrificed his high school years because he wanted to integrate a school in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. And him and a couple other people, um, you know, transitioned to the high school. And it was just a horrible experience from what I read. But he made that sacrifice for all of us because he was just, I mean, one of the things in the book that he point out, it's just, it's a small thing, but it's not a small thing. It's a big thing. And was that, he would go to school every day. He was clean. He smelled good. He had good hygiene, but nobody wanted to sit next to him. He said he might as well have been green, might as well been a Martian. There was no different. And there was another area in the book when Dr. King was killed. He went to school, the next day, and the kids were taunting him in class by pointing a finger like a gun at him. And the teachers didn't do anything. The teachers just, didn't say anything to the students, didn't say stop this or anything like that. And I just think about, you know, and I was able to thank him for his sacrifice of what he went through. And this was the early 70s. This was like 1971. And then middle school, it was 68 through 70, where he went to the school when Dr. King was killed until he graduated in 71. And I really enjoyed reading that book because even before he was an older teenager, when he was younger, he also participated in the movement and was arrested like at 13 years old. And so that book was an awesome book. I really enjoyed reading it.
Mm. So, can I ask you this? Like in this situation, with this being one of your the book that stands out most to you, have you gotten the opportunity to go to Hattiesburg?
No, no.
Oh,
That book was I was reached out by a production company that really focuses on African American books, and so the guy was starting his own thing and wanted to do that and bring in Black narrators, and that's how I was able to read that book. And but I didn't go to Hattiesburg. I just read the book, and I had to read an area in the book where they were going to the library and they were being kicked out of the library because they can't integrate the library at the time. And I had to sound like a Southern white woman in that phase of the book and read that, how her rejection to them in leaving the library. And so that book, books that really deal with, or any sort of piece that deals with African American history, I mean, I'm so up for it. I look forward to it so much that, I mean, there's really I mean, I don't know, it just comes out in my soul that I'm just so excited about reading it that I already have my own vision of how I want to approach it, even before I even read the first page.
I'll tell you this, if ever you just got the opportunity just to go and visit Hattiesburg, I would say, go through there and take your time, but get on out.
Mhm.
I grew up on the coast,
Ah, okay,
in Mobile, and
okay,
so I'm very familiar with Hattiesburg.
ah, okay, okay, okay.
When they talk about
Hmm.
that struggle is very, very real. Very
Hmm.
real.
Yeah, yeah. So I really enjoyed reading that book, and that was one of the highlights of doing that book itself. Was great. It really was.
How do you protect your voice and maintain vocal health?
There's, for me, um, I I don't. You're not supposed to scream or yell a lot, so you have
Okay.
to have a good temper. So that's one way of protecting your voice. Um, and you warm up your voice, before you read. For me, I notice I don't really get rolling to about 11 o'clock. That's when I would start reading anything. So if I get up in the morning, 7 or 8 o'clock, my voice is very deep, and I tell people in the morning I almost sound like that old Alabama coach Bear Bryant. So my voice got to wake up to like 11 o'clock. Then everything kind of falls out, and I'm able to get going. So I don't get rolling until 11 o'clock. And also dairy products you have to be careful with. Um, and but yeah, I mean, you just have to not like a lot. Sometimes I get some scripts where they want me to scream or something like that, and I'm very hesitant, or to audition for, and I'm just like, if it's not a good fit for me, I'm not moving forward to it.
Mhm. What's the difference between narrating a documentary and a commercial?
Oh, there's a big difference. I mean, in terms of a documentary, the tone of your voice is when I speak to a producer, he may be looking for a certain tone, and it could be, warm, it could be authoritative, it could be serious. Those are the three things they want to hit on. And um, whereas in commercial, it's just different. I mean, it could be the same thing. It could be something serious, but commercials could be written for lighthearted things, or it just depends on what they're looking for. So that's most documentaries, unless it's a subject dealing with comedy or something like that. But even if it's dealing with that, you got that serious aspect as you're talking. You're not really playing around much with your voice there, as opposed to a commercial.
How do you approach character driven narration versus factual storytelling?
Well, it's kind of a blend of both in a ways, because character can be, even if you're doing a commercial, there's something about that the individual, they want to come across as being friendly or being pleasant, or so you're creating your own character in that way to the individual, and you're speaking to them in a conversational way so they can buy the product, or appease to make people want to buy this product. And whereas with the audiobook, yeah, there's demeanor of a person that you're taking on throughout that whole book, that their personality, how they approach different things. So it's just a different direction. It's just how you're directed by a producer or author.
Mhm. So, what's your favorite genre to narrate and why?
Actually, I do like documentaries. I don't do enough of those as much as I would like to. There's a lot of, and that just depends. I mean, there's a lot of production companies that don't want to, audio voice. And
Mhm.
then, it's competition, of course, plays a role in it. But it's the vision of that, producer. So I wish I could do more of those, but to make up for it, I do a lot of, like I said, corporate storytelling about companies. I'm the voice for, like, there's a company called Verkada that I do a lot of commercials for them. And it's just telling the story about why, this stadium wants to have security coverage for, their stadium. And they introduce Verkada to different aspects of it. And then I've done, a lot of commercials um, for Lawson products, and that's dealing with, tools and things like that. So every commercial is a different approach, and you're directed in different ways. So I may have a more authoritative voice when I'm talking about, tools, and then as of talking about, Bacata, sometimes it just depends. I was talking about a ski resort and the cameras there, and it was very lighthearted. And then they have different aspects of, you know, uh, that as well. I mean, I did a piece with them on Temple University has a campus in Japan, and how they use the security cameras for that campus. So it's just so many different ways.
So have you ever auditioned for like actual movie scripts or movies or whatever have you?
No, I have not. Now there is, and what I thought about doing more of is voices for translation. If it's a foreign film and they're looking for the English version of that, that's something that I thought about doing more of, but not for actual movie. Um, it's that's more of something that you're going to get booked through an agent, um, and that agency will contact. And a lot of times, when it's a movie, they're looking for an actor to do the voice. So, they're looking for Morgan Freeman or somebody like that. So I mean they're looking for an actor to do some sort of narration. If it's a movie, they want an actor to do the narration part.
Yeah, see, just don't you think you would have made a great drill sergeant, great army piece?
Yeah,
Or
yeah. I mean,
you got a voice,
I, I
Hey,
would love that. I would love that. Yeah, So it's just, it really is. I did a working with a guy, um, and he's trying to get. Um, I can't say too much about it, but he's trying to get something out for a documentary, and he was looking at, um, a well-known actor, and he heard my voice on LinkedIn, and he used me for like um, the tease or the promotion to go out to different production companies, or um, to kind of make them appeal to wanting to bring their story onto Netflix or bring their story onto Hulu. So that's I was my voice instead of getting the well-known actor. He used my voice, and it worked out great. I mean, we're still working on that. I just can't mention
right.
aspect of it, but I was very flattered that he picked me instead of Morgan Freeman. So you know
So, how do you handle projects that are emotionally heavy or historically significant?
oh, I mean, if it's something, I mean, one, I already have the love built in for doing historical pieces. So I mean, I'm already in. If it's something that's good, if it's well written. And that's one of the things that helped with my transition from TV to this is I like I like well written stuff, and I've been blessed to have all the audiobooks. I would say maybe one was not real well written. And I feel really blessed about that because that's what makes me want to perform better. You know, when I see this, I say, man, this is really well written. And so that makes the transition so much more easier because I pay attention to that. And my expressions, my energy, my emotion is going to come through with that good writing. So, I mean, if it's good writing, um, they they've won me over.
Mm. So, what's one voiceover project that pushed you creatively?
I, you know, pushed me creatively was, I did this piece, and it was a national piece, and it dealt with, you mentioned earlier, Kumho tires, and it was just a 30-second spot, and it featured at that time NBA All-Star John Wall. He was with the Washington Wizards, and they wanted me to read in a very serious tone, um, kind of dark tone of him, their tire company. I mean, if you see the commercial, you wouldn't think they were talking about tires, but John Wall is um, in the gym, and then it flashes to a basketball on fire, and then him walking towards the gym, and it's just my voice is the commercial theme was every second, and so would my voice was heavy, deep, but um, I brung it with that commercial in terms of just creatively being able to you know bring this darkness to this 30-second spot. And it was a challenge, but I was able to succeed with it, and I feel proud about it because I really didn't get much direction from a producer on that. It was just all my mind and seeing the script, and then the producer said, "This is how it needs to be. We're looking for a deep voice. We're looking for an authoritative voice. We're looking for some sort of darkness." That was all I needed. So I didn't get an email sent back to me and saying, "Hey, Greg, can you fix this?" Or it was, it was all my vision in my mind of how the words looked to me.
As from as we've gotten into this interview, from for how the foundation went to where you are now, and just listening to the passion about your work, can you tell us and tell all the audience out here who or what is Greg Campbell's motivation?
I think my motivation is I love the work. I love the art. All obvious things. My motivation is my family, my wife, my kids. Um, you know, that's something that means a heck of a lot to me. But in terms of the job itself, I really like the art. I like being able to do something that brings out, I feel, the best in me, different part of my character that I don't get to show all the time to people. And I can bring those things out, and you never see what I look like. And I can hide behind this mic in my studio and just bring about characters. And I love that. I love that. You know, um, that's what drives me. It's just the art and doing something different all the time. That's so much fun.
Wow. Um, what do you want listeners to feel when they hear your voice?
It just depends. I mean, because there's a message I have to get across. So again, I mean, I'm following what the producers say. If they want it to be warm, um, I really enjoy doing pieces like that. I think my voice is highlighted better in that, and in authoritative things. Um, but that warm part of me, I love being able to showcase that. And, you know, that's what I enjoy most. I mean, and just what we talked about, you touched on a little bit earlier, um, the what I won a Telly Award on was the 1954 project, and that was dealing with um, this company that is out of Chicago, and they help educate people on uh, teachers, black teachers, and how the piece that I did and I won an award with dealt with um, during the civil rights movement. So many black teachers lost their jobs when they made the transition over into, desegregation, and a lot of them like just lost. They just, didn't get work. They, lost their jobs, and this company kind of explains that um, there's a certain percentage of black children, if they have someone from elementary school that is black and who is influential in their life, they will go on to college, or they're going to get more encouragement from a non-black um, um, school, and that was what the piece was about. And when I got that script, I was just like, man, I'm gonna enjoy this. And that was one of my favorite pieces as well, because it just all everything that came out of my soul was in that piece,
Oh,
and I was able to interpret things the way I wanted to interpret it, and the passion just came out when you read certain scripts, you read statistics, and I'm emphatic on certain statistics, and it's just it was just intuitive. So that's the sort of thing I just love. I mean, I love telling the story of our story, and even if it's in a 2 minute video as opposed to a long audio book.
mm. So let's move over to your work in coaching and mentorship.
Hmm.
Um, so what inspired you to begin coaching others in voiceover or media?
Well, I mean, coaching, there's so many people I was approached in doing this, because, people say I have a great voice. And so, so many people approach me about how to get in the business. So, I want to be able to help people transition into it, explain to them that it's really not an expensive business to get started into. There's not a whole lot of cost involved, and it is fun. It's something that you can enjoy. So that's something that part of me that wanted to share with people. And then, helping people, of course, I love doing that. And I kind of had some experience just from my old broadcast career, because, again, we would take on interns in the sports office, people who wanted to get into the business, and I enjoyed teaching them. So it was just another way of me being able to share what I know to other people, and letting them know it's not as difficult as it sounds.
Mm. So how do you help new talent find their authentic voice?
Oh, that's just really dealing with practice, 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 but um, helping them sound more conversational. You have to sound conversation. You have to be you when that script hits, when you read that script. And I'll never forget when I was an intern at my television station. Um, one of the anchors there, and she still works in the business. She works in Denver. Her name is Shaw Turner, and she took me into the audio book booth, and that was for that piece that I was doing with Chris Webber, and because she was saying, he sounds like you're reading, and so many people, when they read a script, they want to read to make sure they hit all the words correctly, and they got all these things going on in their mind, and you just have to. One of the things she told me was quicken the pace, so you read, quicken the pace, be your authentic self, be yourself, talk like you're talking to me, And it was, it was tough to make that transition and visualize that, but that's what you have to do. So that was one of the things I do with my students is, have them practice how they would sound reading this and telling it. Just tell it, tell the story, tell that sentence, as opposed to just reading it.
So, what's the most common mistake you see beginners make?
Oh, I mean, sometimes it's just, worrying too much about how their voice sound and how they sound. A lot of people are so new to this that they just, they haven't been behind the microphone like we kind of talked about earlier. So it's just relaxing and not being so difficult on themselves that it's going to take time. It's going to take weeks, um, especially if you're raw and brand new and never done anything like this before. So just really being patient with yourself.
So, tell us how that process worked from start to end. What does that look like?
Oh, I mean, you are, introducing to the individual to different, I do a voice evaluation first. So I have someone read for me and I go from there and what I hear, because there's so much that I can hear just from you reading. And, just for example, when I first started doing sports, I had to get a lot of my slang and a lot of my how I grew up talking out because, um, for example, I remember working with a consultant at the time, and I was saying the word running without the ing, and I was saying running, and my consultant said, "Unless you're talking about the UNLV running rebels, don't say running." you gotta say you gotta say running, Greg. So you know you have to clean a lot of that up. And when he first did my evaluation, there were red ink marks everywhere because I was just so used to talking a certain way. So you have to kind of get that balance. And there's some people who diction is better than others, so you have to really improve your diction or those things that I listen to first to kind of work on when they get started.
So, how do you coach people through fear or self doubt?
Oh, and I want them to be, comfortable with me. So, I mean, I think that's just part of, getting to know them first, having a conversation with them, finding out why they want to do this. So, having that discussion with them, explaining what it's going to be like, and then, giving them the pieces of scripts to work with. And because I coach, once a week, I, have with my students. And during that week, I'll give them, homework, things they need to practice on. And, they kind of go from there. And I definitely, explain to them, what you need to do to sound more, be more relaxed, reading out loud, read in the mirror or, whatever makes you feel comfortable, just so you can, ease into sounding more conversational.
Now, a lot of times, especially with your work, as you mentioned, how a lot has to deal with, not just here from the mental, but also when you're speaking this out and the emotions and all that good stuff. Um, and some people kind of like, when they're in their head, the mindset is just not right.
Yeah.
So, can you tell us what role does mindset play in mastering the mic?
Oh, I mean, it plays a big role. I mean, because you have to be confident for one, and that's what all that practice does. If you practice a whole lot, so when it comes to time to perform, you're confident that you can perform. So it's just like with even, I participated in sports in school, and you practice, and when it comes to game day, you're ready to perform. You're confident that you can do the job. The same way with this. When you get hired, you get that demo tape and you do a good demo, you practice, make it sound good. And then when you send out your tape or, audition for jobs, um, you're ready. So that's the mental part, is all of that practice that you're putting in for it to make sure you're confident in doing the work.
So, how do you balance technical skill with emotional connection in your coaching?
Well, technical is all the things that you need to improve on with your voice. Like I said, it could be um, certain words that you have difficulty with and how to pronounce them correctly. Um, it could be, um, again, the aspect of when to inflect your voice on a certain word in a sentence. Those things come with time, but it's the practice that deals with them. Those are some of the technical things that you have to deal with. Technical in terms of this other aspect of technical, of being able to edit and all that. That's another part of this business that you need to know, and it's not as difficult as people may think once they get their hands on it, and being able to edit their script and edit their voice on software. But that's another technical aspect of dealing with it, but it's not as difficult as people think.
What's your philosophy on mentorship and legacy?
Mentors is, I think that's being a good influence for people, seeing your work and your dedication, how hard you work at it. I When I mentor someone, I want them to learn all aspects of my work, and and then be there for them if they need help. So people need that. They need to, one, see you being successful, doing what you're doing, but being a person that they can come to for help as well. So that's kind of two sides of it that people need to see if you're mentoring someone, is the time that you want to put into them, and showing them what it's all about.
So, how do you stay inspired while helping others grow?
I mean, it's like I say, I love the art, and I stay inspired just by wanting to do one up myself on the next job and doing something great. So you're always kind of pushing yourself to do something greater. There's work that I really love that I've done, but I feel like I can do better. So, and I want to delve into that all the time. I want to do, like I said, I wish I could do more documentaries, because I know that's a real good strength of mine. Um, but yeah, I mean, I always want to do something better than the last thing I did.
So, what's one coaching success story that stands out to you?
I think, I mean, I can go back even further. I mean, um, even before voiceover, but I can remember, helping someone in television, and, coaching them in the aspect of doing sports, and even doing news. And I have a individual that, I worked with, who went on to be very successful into news, but started out in our sports office, watching me, being a reporter, going out on stories with me. And that individual went on to work at a pretty big market, top 10 market actually. And so for me, that was, I mean, I'm proud of that, because I had some sort of, I thought, had some sort of influence on that.
So, what advice would you give to someone starting their voiceover journey today?
Um, get coaching. That's really important, is to get coaching, because you're going to need it. This is so different than everything else, and you need someone to help you with just networking, because there's a lot of that that's being done in this business. I attended the Atlanta. They have a um, convention every year in Atlanta. And I went this year, and I've gone in years past. But it's really, getting to know other people in the business, and but coaching is first, and then other things come after that. Your demos, and then your website, and all that stuff. So coaching is something that I would tell people to pursue.
Oh, tell me, what is that convention called? Because I had no idea
It's called
that
VO Atlanta. So
VO.
VO Atlanta. Yeah, and it was this past March, and it's going to be March again next year. So voiceover Atlanta, and it was at the Hilton, and they change hotels from time to time, but it's really cool. I mean, you meet, and one of the cool things about the voiceover industry is there's not a whole lot of ego. People are approachable, people are very nice, and that's what I really you know recognized about it when I went to my first convention, and that was back in like 2018. And so it's really cool.
Do you have to be in the industry to attend?
No, I mean, there's people who are interns in this, or people who are looking to get started in this. So yeah, you don't have to be. I mean, you just have to have the fee to attend.
Mhm.
So you just have to have that, and um, if you're going to stay in a hotel or whatnot. But yeah, you just need that, and they have so many different seminars there that you can learn from, how to get into the business, how to get started. So all that is there. They have that one there, and they have another one in Dallas, but I never attended the one in Dallas.
So let's move over to Black History and Legacy.
Hmm.
When we spoke, and I asked you who were the most influential people in your life and career, you mentioned that it was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X.
Hmm.
And can you tell us, why are Dr. King and Malcolm X most influential figures in your life?
Oh, I mean, just so much of what I learned about Dr. King's struggle, and what he changed so much. They changed so much. One of the things that I had a conversation with my father about this years ago, and I felt like Malcolm X, what he was saying is how Black people felt but couldn't say out loud, and he was able to say it. He had the courage to say it, and we needed to hear that as well. I mean, that's something that you just need. You have all this frustration bottled up in you, and I can imagine even in that time, to have somebody come out and be that strong, that was needed. And then with Dr. King, what was needed was legislation. He got legislations to change things of how our lives were affected. So, I mean, that was such a big, influential piece in learning about that. And the freedom, some of the freedoms that we have, I understood that at a very young age. And, I had, my grandmother was from Alabama. She told me a lot of stories, and they moved up north, to get a lot of the work that was in the factories at the time.
Mhm.
And so she told me a lot about the struggle, the things that they're talking about now, about the riots that occurred in the early part of the 19th century or the 20th century. My grandmother had already told me about those things, and now people know about it more because it's getting, people are learning more about our history, and you hear people talking about, Tulsa on TikTok, and the Tulsa massacre and all that. My grandmother told me about those things back, long time ago. I knew about those, but nobody, we didn't hear those things in school. So, but Dr. King, just one of the things that get me about the civil rights movement, the nonviolent movement, I feel personally, and this is just me and my opinion, is that we've been labeled as being criminal and labeled as being more violent. And here you are talking about people who had a nonviolent movement, nonviolent, and they were beaten. And I just don't want to preach here, but I one of the things I think about when I think of the knowledge that I know about the civil rights movement. I know people probably had this feeling at the time, but we don't get this credit for and being patriots, so to speak, that during that period, in the footage that you never see anybody burning the American flag. Never seen that. Never seen that. Never seen that in the civil rights movement. I know they wanted to do it, at the time, but you never seen that. And that it's the BS that, and I don't want to drift off here, Charles, but it's who has been more patriots than Black people in this country. And that's what, I look at that, and I look at the resilience of us. And that's why I love being who I am. I would never want to be anything other than Black. So
Ooh. Let me give you all that applause. That in itself, I mean, that's more than a mouthful. But of course, we won't drift onto that. But I will say this because first of all, what part of Alabama are your people from?
my grandmother was from Epps, Alabama,
Okay.
and my father on my grandfather's side, he was from Scuba, Mississippi. So,
okay, so that was that's in this northwestern corner of Alabama. That actually it's because Mississippi and Alabama mirror. If you look at the map, they look the same, but it was all Mississippi at first. Okay, well, I'm going to tell you like this. We've always been the civil individuals, and so we already know that when it comes to violence, we know who the violent folk are. We know when the Moors, when they got them folks out them caves, had they left them in the caves. Now we just wonder what would life have been like.
Exactly.
They came out the caves wanting to kill folk and not realizing what civilization was.
Yep.
And so it's still like that today. Who's starting all the wars?
Yep.
Everybody wants to go to war and shoot and kill folk. Black folk ain't doing that.
Yep. Exactly. So, I always been able to focus on and I feel proud that I've been able to be taught the positive things about us growing up. Like I said, my grandmother was like basically my history teacher, because we weren't getting that in school. And I always remembered that. And now, like I said, more people are talking about those things now. Everybody's talking about what happened in riots in the early part of the 1900s and all that, but we knew about that stuff. I mean, we knew about it, but nobody wanted to tell that story or tell those stories. And that's what I also just feel good about is, like I said, when I get an audiobook and it's dealing with Black history, I mean, I love to tell it, and my passion comes out in the book. So I love to tell our story. And so that's one of the things that I look at is, me kind of continuing on in some aspects, telling someone's story.
So how does their teachings, that is King and X, how do their teachings show up in your work and voice?
I think in my voice, just in terms of the passion of the subject, I mean, I just feel so compelled to tell it, and tell it, that all that just comes through. It's just natural. It's just in my soul, I feel like. But I want to, in both aspects, just tell the truth. I mean, and that's one of the things that they were showing us the true part of this country. They were showing everything, when you look at those videos, they were showing America for what it was at that time. And if somebody would listen, they were telling you and then showing you, so that's, to me, that's how I appreciate the that having that experience of being able to see what they brought to the table in terms of the movement, and learn from it, and then continue on our lives in the next direction. And I want to teach that to my daughters. I have 2 kids, and they understand very well what's going on. So absolutely.
So, what do you admire most about each of their leadership styles?
There's 2 different styles. Like I said, I think Malcolm was more of, his style was not, stand up for yourself, not taking any abuse, protect yourself, protect your family, protect other Black people. All of that was there when he was talking to you, when he was talking to his audience. That's what I was getting from him, because it made sense. I mean, we were being killed for just existing. And then you had King, who also wanted you to take the high road. And I think that, they say maybe from him, you get that saying is, pick your battles, because it wasn't, I don't think he felt like, you take, you, you want to attack, discrimination in a different way, through legislation, through, making sure everybody had all their rights. And one of the things that I feel like we don't still get enough credit for in those movements is a lot of things trickle down to other people, like these EEOC, violations, all that in employment. That was a part of the civil rights. The civil rights movement kind of laid the foundation for that, and not enough of that is, not enough of that is told, and or so I just think that from those 2, that's how we approach things. One, I'm not going to let you say things about me and just take it. And then, other aspect, I want other people to suffer either, not just myself.
So, when we think about King, as you mentioned, the nonviolence movement and so forth, when you just think about it, and I'm just asking your opinion, when you think about it, and you look at the same situation right now with what they're doing with ICE,
Mm-hmm.
do you see a parallel with that?
I do, to a certain extent. I mean, I feel like one is just the ugliness of the country, in the sense that to be able to, it's all about control, and taking it to that extreme. I think there's different ways that you can go about integration, or into the country, to make sure it's done legally,
Right.
than just pulling people off of the street and having everybody see that. And it's just, I don't think that's right at all. So I think doing that is just horrible. That's just another tactic of the powers that be in this country want to get over, to send a message, I feel like. And then from the civil rights movement, it was us wanting to, and it's still to today, it's just us wanting to be treated equal, just treated like everybody else. It's not about us wanting to take over the country. It's just us, just equal treatment under the law, equal treatment in housing, equal treatment in, I go to the grocery store, or just equality. That's all we want. And it's just still a fight to deal with this. I think it shows America, the ugly part of America that we've been dealing with always.
I'm going to tell you this. I'm not done, but I just want to tell you, next season, season 4, we're going to be having. Implementing a new segment, and it's called Final Word Friday.
Okay.
and it's going to be 3 people panels every Friday, starting effective January 16th.
Okay.
And so, what we'll be talking about is hot topics. And
Hmm.
so, topics such as this are ones that, just putting pins in it, and, just let you know that it's everybody having the ability to just talk about these things. We do it civilly, of course, but
Hmm.
you do it at what you see best, and people can comment on it. And
Okay.
so I think what you're talking about now, this is something that a lot of people probably need to be speaking on more than we can imagine. But there's still a lot of people that's got some of that 1960s stuck in them where they are afraid to say anything.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't mean that in a bad way, but I'm just saying,
Yep.
because, you know, oh man, I'll save
I
that
know.
for another day. But how do you reconcile their different approaches to justice and change?
You mean in terms of this administration or what?
No, I'm talking about. I'm still talking about King and
Oh, okay. I got you. I got you. Um, I mean, one of the things, both of them pointed out that Black people were tired. It just was done in a different way. I mean, we were tired of going decade after decade, century after century, of being second class citizens. And one of the things that um, King doesn't get a whole lot of credit for, but should, is the poverty line. At that time, when you look at the poverty line in the 60s to now, there was so many more Black people living below the poverty line. And with him being able to talk about, us being able to integrate and get better jobs and that sort of thing, that people don't look at enough is that you look at statistically, and I saw that, and I was looking at, wow, the difference in terms of living below the poverty line at that time to where we are now, those 60 years, that was a lot of that, that was a lot of success. There was a lot of success in that short 60 years of civil rights that we've enjoyed, and I think that people need to look at that a lot more in terms of where we were below the poverty line before, King started with, the push for us having equal housing and equal rights and work and all that, and how we treat that played a role in us having better opportunities.
Mhm. What lessons from their lives do you pass on to others?
Well, I mean, just the knowledge that they brought, the knowledge of being, Martin Luther King had a discussion talk at school in Maryland back in '67, and I play that for my kids um, every year during his birthday. And one of the things that he talked about was having a blueprint in your life, and in that blueprint, you don't let anybody tell you that you're not a good person, that don't deserve the best in your life. And he was saying that to a middle school or junior high back in 1967. And I played that for my daughters, and I tell them that don't let anybody tell you that you're not worth, your self-worth is beneath them. So I that's one of the things that I get across, that one of the things that he was preaching. And Malcolm X definitely, preached that for sure, that all the positive things about, and the strength of being Black in this country. So absolutely, those two things.
So, how do you honor their legacy through your narration and coaching?
Honor my legacy.
Mhm.
I want to come across that, um, that I'm there for them, that I care, um, that, that this is something that I want to teach them, that they could help in other ways of their life, just in general discussions that we have about how to improve themselves. If they could see through me the work that I'm putting in to them that, that I'm invested in them. So I want them to come away with learning from that experience that, Greg is somebody that they can see as a mentor.
What would Dr. King and Malcolm X say about the power of voice today?
Oh, I mean, now, oh, there's so many, there's so many people who have a platform now. And, when you look back in his time, there weren't very many people had a platform. It was maybe just those two. And so many people have a platform now. When you look at the internet and all the different things that you can do, someone that's being positive and, um, you know, for the next generation, because the next generation needs to, we need to move forward, not backwards. And mentally, we need to have somebody always telling us that we are good, that we belong, and that we've been resilient. And that's a great thing going forward. So we can just put other aspects of our lives together. It would be easier for us in some ways, or we can be more loving to each other.
How do you use your platform to elevate Black history and truth?
Well, I use it, through my pieces. I mean, if I get a piece that um, dealing with Black history, like I said, they're going to get a great performance from me. Financial advisor, and he does self-help books, does books on finance, he does books on religion, and I, when I get his books, I'm able to delve into um, every part of that. I bring out the best in me when I'm reading. So that's what I bring. I mean, I'm going to get the best of me when I'm doing my books.
What does Black legacy mean to you personally?
It means everything. I mean, it means um, the legacy means so much because, like I said, we've endured so much. I want, when I look at my family, I look at the legacy that has been laid upon me, because I could trace my family back to the mid 1800s in this country, and and I know quite a bit about their journey, and so I want to pass that on to my kids and my kids' kids. So um, I've learned a whole lot, and that's the part that um, makes me be proud of who I am, because the stories that you've known and heard about, that you've endured to get to this point. Um, one of the things I told my daughter was, when she was in school, she's in college now, but when she was in high school, is don't you fall asleep in class, because there were a whole lot of people who died for you to be in this integrated classroom. So that's one of the things. It's just the pride of our experience. I have a whole lot of pride in the skin I'm in, and that means more to me than anything. I mean, I really love it.
Final question.
Uh-huh.
What message would you want to leave for the next generation of Black storytellers?
That you do have, I feel like you have some sort of, you know, um, commitment to make sure our stories are out there and that they are told correctly. And, you know, um, if you're a person that wants to, um, write, tell your story, but always just tell it in a way that is um, your perspective of how you live. Nobody else can tell you how you've lived as an African American person in this country. Nobody can tell you that. I mean, I don't care who it is, if they're another race, if they live to be 100 years old and you're black and you're 30 years old, that's a different experience. So you want to tell your experience and your life, and be genuine about it.
So, what can you leave our audience with some words of wisdom and encouragement, and let them know how they can connect with you on your social media, how they can get in touch with you on your website as to the VO coaching, all of those good things.
Sure, sure. Um, One of the things that I leave is to, you know, keep your head up high, and always be positive. Try to be, I know it's a struggle, um, but, you know, we've made it this far and we got so much further to go, but we'll get there. So, I mean, that's one of the things that has always been stressed, even from, Dr. King. That's what I always look. It's always pushing forward. Just uh, move forward. Move forward. If you have a bad day, just move forward. That's the way I look at it. Um, with my business, if you're looking into getting into want to get into voiceovers, you can contact me through my through email at info@gregcvoiceovers.com, or my website, which is www.gregcvoiceovers.com, and just email me through that, or my phone number's on my website as well. But definitely you can. I'm on social media. I'm on Facebook. I'm on TikTok. If you look out for me, you can definitely just shoot me an email. I'd be more than happy to talk to you about how to get started. Or if you're a person that has a audiobook that you're looking to, you can see my work on my website as well. And hit me up if you're interested.
Well, I want to thank you for being here, Greg, because this was truly, truly another great show. It was very informative, and there was a lots of things, especially when we got to the end there, when we talk about the Black History part, because again, as we establish this platform on the Black legacy and Black excellence, that's
Mhm.
exactly what I want people to get, and that's exactly what they got tonight.
I
And
appreciate it.
I appreciate you, not just telling your story, but also giving that information as to how to get into what you're doing in voiceover.
Hmm.
Because, as you say, it's another part, of entertainment that does not cost that much. But it
Exactly.
also is a way that if there's something that you want to do, you can help folk to get into that.
Sure, sure, absolutely. Well, it's been great talking to you. I appreciate you bringing me on. So thanks so much for that. I mean, I really enjoyed this.
So I want to thank each and every individual that has been watching the show on all eight of our channels. For those of you that are in particularly on the YouTube channels, if you have not yet subscribed and enabled all notifications, I would appreciate your support if you would go and you would support us by subscribing to our channel. Also, as I mentioned to Greg, at the last part, the last segment of the show, I want to invite you guys to one, join our community. We have a community where you can actually watch the podcast there, as well as you can network. You can also do postings there and things of that nature. Anything that's going to help you to build. Also, we would appreciate you guys going and taking the opportunity and subscribing to our monthly magazine, because once again, it's a place where not only you see the Black excellence, you see the legacy of the many, many people that's got melanin in their skin that are doing an enormous amount of things within their communities and helping the community in more ways than one. They are the real heroes. So I suggest and I ask that you please subscribe to the magazine, and you also get the opportunity to see these people in full action, but also you too can have the opportunity and join in the community of voting for the America in Black and White Person of the Year, which we will announce on December 31st. We also have a new segment that we're launching next season, which is going to premiere January 16th. It's called Final Word Fridays. Final Word Fridays will consist of 3 people panels that will have the opportunity to discuss hot topics. We will have the opportunity to discuss the things that they feel like people should hear most about. We can talk, we're going to go around the round table. We will be talking as well as having the opportunity to sit there and have your favorite drink while we chat. Thank you all for watching us tonight. We have a very special show for you guys tomorrow night. And please come back and join us tomorrow, same time, 6 p.m., here on America in Black and White, where we will continue to color conversations on the canvas of America. Thank you, Greg, and I will definitely be reaching out to you, and you all have a great evening.
Thank you.